And that's it for this course section. We learned a lot about conditionals here. We started with if statements, which are super important for running different pieces of code based on different conditions. You learned how you can write if statements, that you can have else if and else branches, and that you can also have more complex conditions here. In the end, you just need a Boolean value here, so you can also just store the result of a condition or a Boolean value itself in a variable and use that. Or you put your condition in line with the if keyword, as we're doing it here. Potentially, you can even combine multiple conditions, as we are also doing it here, to really express the exact condition that you want to express to then execute this code if that condition is met. And if statements are super important because in any non-trivial program, you will have different branches of code that need to execute under certain conditions. And then we also have loops. Loops allow us to repeat code, and as you learned, we have different kinds of loops. We have loops where we loop up to a certain number or down from a certain number, but where we in the end have a fixed number of iterations. But we also can write loops where we just have some condition and will keep on looping as long as that condition is met, and will therefore have to make sure that at some point in our code we ensure that it's not met anymore. Otherwise, we'll have an infinite loop, which is rarely what you want because then your program would never finish. And we also learned how we can loop through a list of values, through a collection, like an array, a slice, or a map, with the special range keyword, and then these helper variables that we can assign to the returned values, the index or key, and the concrete value. And that's useful whenever you have a certain operation that should be performed for every value in a collection. And with that, we learned about loops and if statements, two super important features. If statements also help us with error handling, something we have been doing a lot then since we learned it, since you should of course also handle cases where things can go wrong and you have no control over it as a developer. You can't prevent it, but now you can at least handle it. And therefore these are more key building blocks which you will need in basically any program you're going to write.